The Green Death, the fifth and final serial of Doctor Who's 10th season, first broadcast in 6 parts from the 19th of May to the 23rd of June 1973. This would also be the final appearance of Katie Manning as Jo Grant. The Doctor, played once again by Jon Pertwee, and Jo Grant, played by Katie Manning, are told by the Brigadier that they need to head to a Welsh mining town because strange happenings have been happening. Although the Doctor briefly heads off for a small excursion on the planet Metebelis 3, a planet which he would later return to in the Series 11 story Planet of the Spiders. But enough about that. Jo mainly wants to head to the Welsh mining town of Llanfairpwll because there have been reports of pollution there, and she wants to make a stand, especially because there's due to be a young professor there named Professor Clifford Jones, played by Stuart Baval, who she sees as a younger version of the Doctor, and she wants to be able to help him out. Now, in the Welsh mining town of Llanfairpwll, the mines, while they've usually been running as normal, people have started turning up dead in them with mysterious green stuff all over their skin, and it's generally believed that a company called Global Chemicals is to blame. So yeah, this is a kind of typical pollution story, big evil businesses causing trouble. Now, Professor Clifford Jones, aside from wanting to, of course, protest the pollution that Global Chemicals is causing, he has also managed to find this miracle fungus, which can actually duplicate flavours and textures of other proteins, which he claims could save the world. I mean, cure world hunger. And to be honest, looking at it, if you had something that grew like a fungus, but then was able to mimic the textures and tastes of beef, also you could make a fortune with that. But anyway, the person in charge of Global Chemicals is a guy named Stevens, played by Jerome Willis, and he's kind of the typical pollution bad guy. He's the person who's above everything and is seemingly looking down on everyone, and there's nothing you can do about it. And he's very clever about that. But eventually, mainly the Doctor, finds out that the person actually in charge of Global Chemicals is a computer known as Boss. It's voiced by John Dirth. When the Doctor finally manages to get up there, it kind of gloats at him, and it reveals that while it was being built, Stevens was building it, and when it managed to gain sentience, I was watching this with a family member, and they found this bit quite confusing, but after a night thinking about it, I think I sort of get it. It said that while it managed to gain sentience while Stevens was building it, and manipulated him to make it one step below perfection, to which my family member was like, well, why do that? Why? I don't entirely understand. I think I do slightly get it, because if you made it perfection, then it would have nothing to strive for. So building it one step below perfection so that it always thinks it can one-up itself, yeah, I can kind of see how that would work. And it, of course, wants to do what else? Take over the world. To which, while this is a pretty good villain, pretty good story, I do think that Boss does at times have its goofy moments. Like, there's a part in part 6 when it's kind of humming to itself and hums various tunes, such as the Funeral March, and I believe it's in Bach. It's just like, you're getting a computer to hum various tunes. There was even one that I thought it was the Jurassic Park theme tune, although it was pointed out this story came out in 1973 and Jurassic Park wouldn't hit the screens until 1993. So I have been informed that it's actually something else, something classical, but anyway. So, yeah, the Doctor, Jo, and everyone heads there, including the Brigadier, played by Nicholas Courtney, Sergeant John Benson, played by John Levine, and Captain Mike Yates, played by Richard Franklin. Now, I do think Mike Yates is used well here because they send him undercover in Global Chemicals, and throughout most of the story, it's difficult to tell exactly what side he's on most of the time. I mean, sometimes he can talk to the Doctor in such a disdainful way that you do believe he's on the side of Global Chemicals, but then when the Doctor manages to sneak in, disguised first as a milkman and then as a cleaning lady, it gets some good things, and you see Mike Yates is legitimately trying to help him. It's nice to see. This story would also be the start of the downfall of Mike Yates, which again shows him being manipulated by a company, and then it would lead, of course, to Invasion of the Dinosaurs, which would see him dismissed from unit, and Planet of the Spiders when he heads to the retreat. I do think it's done well here. Now, well, what Global Chemicals has actually ended up doing is pumping their chemicals down into the ground, into the mines, and creating giant maggots. The maggots get soaked in the toxic waste and end up turning giant. Which is problem enough, but then they manage to worm their way to the surface. That's really bad. And eventually, while they are able to kill off most of them, one of them does end up metamorphizing into a giant fly. Now, while I was watching this with family, we claimed that the giant maggot effects, well, kind of crude by today's standards. So in 1973, this was pretty good stuff. The giant fly, however, that's not so much. I mean, the green screen in this story is kind of hit or miss. In most cases, it is kind of glaringly obvious which ones were on set and which ones were green screen. But the giant fly, as I said, while the giant maggots seem an alright effect, the giant fly really isn't. I mean, especially as you've got Jon Pertwee and John Levine on screen while a giant fly is on the green screen in the background. It's a little crude. But anyway, as I said, this was the final story of Casey Manning as Joe Grant. As the story ends with it being revealed, Professor Clifford Jones, played by Stuart Bavall, has asked Joe to come with him to the Amazon in order for him to kind of find and research more about this miracle fungus. And he also reveals that he wants to marry her, and she agrees to it. But this would mean, with her getting married and her going up the Amazon, that she would have to leave. And honestly, I think this is some great acting from Jon Pertwee as well, because so much is said, not just by what he says in the story, but also by what he doesn't say. In that you can tell he's clearly happy that Jo has found someone who makes her happy and that she's going to get married and she's going to do great things with her life, but you can also tell he is supremely sad about her leaving. And even at the end, just the small act of everyone is celebrating their accomplishments, celebrating Jo and Clifford getting engaged, the Doctor having one drink and then slipping away back to Bessie and then driving off into the sunlight, that just sunset, that just says so much. I mean, it's like you get during school, kind of at the end of it all, when you hug your friends, as you don't know if you're going to see each other again or for a long time. And just so much is said in that 1 minute, and I think it is great acting from the two of them. But with this being the last story of season 10, and subsequently the last one that I needed to see, I've actually ended up watching this complete season accidentally in order, which, yeah. This is my ranking of season 10. Now, at the bottom, I'd probably go for Carnival of Monsters, which it isn't necessarily a bad story, it's a little goofy, but yeah, just everything else was so good that the Carnival of Monsters got pushed down. One step above that, I would probably say, is Frontier in Space, which it's a decent story. I'm sad it was Delgado's last, but yeah. One step above that, I'd put Planet of the Daleks, which I did contain a lot of the stuff that I was missing from Death to the Daleks, as I said in my review. One step above that, I put The Three Doctors, which is a great celebration of 10 years of Doctor Who. I love it. And I'd actually put The Green Death as my number one. So yeah, there you go. I actually think The Green Death is so good, it's my best of season 10. So, there we are. The Green Death and my ranking of season 10, all done. Will end up being my next story? Well, once again, I've no idea. Maybe I'll have an idea, maybe I won't. Anyway, until next time, see ya.